So for those of you who do not read my blogs or don't like reading blogs in general, this is in a nutshell what I say, right, in response to the latest podcast with the fifth person. The first one was my response to a viewer who said most regular folks would have to speculate in order to generate sufficient capital to get a $200,000 dividend annually from investments. And I said there is no need to speculate, although we could certainly do it, right? And in the podcast with the fifth person, I shared my views on this, the pros and the cons. I say but now I'll tell you there are also other ways to make more money, and regular readers know I did some trading in the past, trading stocks, and I also had side hustles to make more money. I was holding 3 jobs, working 7 days a week at one time, and I also blogged about how we should not wait until we have a larger amount of money before we start investing for income. Right, dividends made in the early years, no matter how small, would grow our wealth, and these dividends could be used to invest for even more income if we don't spend the money. Right? So that's number one. Number two, in the blog post I say how it's possible to make $200,000 dividends annually without having a large sum of money. Right? Because so many people say, oh la, AK must have had millions of dollars, to begin with. That's why he can get $200,000 in dividends per year. That's simply not the case. It's not true. Right? So in the podcast I said that my capital wasn't $10 million, $5 million, $4 million, and it wasn't even $3 million. Right? And it's a much smaller sum of money, right? And I'm now getting $200,000 in dividends yearly if nothing goes wrong. I mean, that's what I got last year. It was a bit more than $200,000. It was like $206,000 last year. And the answer when I say it's simpler than you think, it's really simpler than you think, because a lot of what I bought was bought during crises, where Mr. Market was suffering from severe depression, right? So by now, my experience with AIMS APAC REIT should be quite well known. I mean, I share in my blog often enough, but now, of course, it's on YouTube as well. And my investment in AIMS APAC REIT is one of my largest investments and probably my oldest one. It generates a distribution yield of more than 10% on cost for me year after year. Right? As I got into it in a big way during the global financial crisis. So it is a major contributor to my yearly passive income. And my investment has been free of cost for many years. All right? And I've recovered my capital. And I'm still receiving income from my investment in AIMS APAC REIT. So of the $200,000 in dividends received last year, a big chunk of that money was actually free money. Because I've already recovered the cost, I got back my capital years ago. Right? It is money generated from nothing. Essentially, now it's money generated from nothing for many years already. And it will probably continue for many years to come. So how did this happen? Time happened. Time happened. It is possible to get higher dividend yields during crises if we invest in the right businesses that would survive the crisis. We could also choose to sell these investments later on if their stock prices should recover. And in the podcast I did with the fifth person recently, I used examples of Lipo Mall Trust and First REIT. But of course, regular readers of my blog would also know that there were others like Sizen REIT, Creases Retail Trust, and Accordia Golf Trust. Right? So all these were sold for significant capital gains, and that grew my wealth. That gave me more capital to invest with, right? So the capital was smaller, I sold, and that increased the size of my capital. And we could also choose to sell a portion of our investments like what I did with Old Chang Kee and Hock Lian Seng. I sold half of my investments in them when their share prices doubled, right? So basically, I got back my capital, and I'm still invested. A small investment, but I'm still invested. But whatever I'm holding now is free of cost, and they're still paying me year after year. More free money, which I can use to invest with if I don't spend them. Right? So all this brings me back to the point about speculation. Why is there a need to speculate in order to grow wealth? There's simply no need. In my mind, there's simply no need. So when I say it's simpler than you think, simply wait for the next opportunity to make significant investments for income, like what I did during the global financial crisis. invest in good businesses which are able and willing to pay us. And that opportunity came not too long ago in the form of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, regular readers know that I emptied my war chest during the pandemic and got into UOB at $19 a share. And that investment in UOB is one of my largest investments today. And it is rewarding me with a dividend yield of almost 9% per annum now. 9% per annum. I also talk about how I started buying into DBS at $13 and $14 a share back in 2016. Now you think at $13 a share, the dividend yield on cost is almost 15% per annum today. All this high yields, coupled with free money I get from Ames APAC REIT, Old Chang-Kee, Hock Pian Sing, for example. Now, do you see why I say that the capital I deployed isn't as much as what some people say it is? It's not. The capital I started with was small, much smaller than what some people would think, right? But it grew. It grew over time with the effort I made to reallocate resources when necessary. And investing during crises for higher yields. Holding on to those good investments in some cases, collecting the dividends and reinvesting them. So it takes time, right? What I have done over the years isn't simply putting some of my monthly salary in fixed income instruments or in some index. If that was my method, then yes, to generate $200,000 yearly in dividends now, I would need around $4 million in capital today. And this, I agree, would be insurmountable for most regular people. So I remind myself constantly, and that's what I do in my blog. I talk to myself and people eavesdrop on me. I remind myself of what I did over the years and how I made what seemed impossible happen. What seemed impossible is actually possible. Okay? Let this sink in for a while. Right? Don't let people tell us what AK has achieved is not possible for regular people because the capital required must be enormous. No, it's simply not true. That's not my story. That's not my experience. And I'm sharing my story and experience to tell you, okay, to remind myself that it is not true. Okay? Go share this with people you care about and tell them this. I'll leave a link to my blog post so you can go and read at your own leisure. Right? AK is a regular person too. If AK can do it, so can you.